Hey guys, Jeff here, and before we get to today's episode, I wanted to let you know about our Season 4 sponsor, Adventure is Out There Travel. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a pretty good chance that you're in the middle of planning your next Disney vacation right now. So why not make it easier for yourself? By working with an Adventure is Out There travel agent, you'll be having an experienced vacation planner doing the heavy lifting for you. Adventure is Out There Travel specializes in making sure your entire group gets to experience the type of activities they want in order to make your trip even more magical. Whether heading to a Walt Disney World vacation in Orlando, flying west to Disneyland, or floating on the high seas in a Disney cruise, Adventure is Out There Travel can help you plan the vacation of a lifetime. Visit adventureisoutthere.travel.com for your free, no obligation quote today. Now on with the show.
Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePaoli.
And I'm Bill Farmer.
Hey Bill Farmer, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me. It's
Thank
great
you
to
so
be
much
here.
for coming to our studio here. Guys, if you don't know, you probably do if you're watching or listening to this podcast, but this is Bill Farmer, the official voice of Goofy.
Gorsh, yeah, he's here too. He's always with me.
Do you do that like literally every day at some point?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least, yeah, except around the wife who gets tired. Okay, we've heard it. No. But yeah, probably. My dogs just look at me. They don't know.
It's dog talk, right? They get it. So we're just going to talk about your career because it's a nice long career and it's been quite an exciting one. But let's just start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town in south central Kansas, Pratt, Kansas, west of Wichita, about 70 miles. Just a little wheat farming community. We had wheat, tumbleweeds, and tornadoes, and that was about it.
So you've experienced the whole tornado thing?
Oh, many times.
How scary versus cool is it? Because I'm going to tell you, I kind of want to experience one.
Yeah, it's kind of like you want to experience an earthquake, but when you're in one, you want it to quit. You know, it's like, I remember when I moved out here and was that an earthquake? No, I think that was a truck. And then we had a pretty good sized one and that was an earthquake. Same thing with tornadoes. Of course, in the old days, they didn't have warnings really that much. I mean, it was delayed. Now they got the Doppler radar and all that stuff, and they can pinpoint these things. But when I was growing up, you just had, clouds look pretty bad. We better go downstairs, you know, and that was about it. But I remember as a kid, we'd be at the municipal swimming pool, and the thick black clouds would kind of move in, and we'd have to, okay, children, get out of the pool and go home, you know. And we'd have to run home, sometimes dodging hail and things like that and lightning.
Nice. I know when you were a kid, was showbiz always the thing for you?
Yeah. In Kansas, there's not a lot to do, you know. So we had one theater, one drive-in theater, and that was it. And 3 channels on TV. So I was just, I was one of those kids that I just loved the movies. It was my escape. And so Saturday, they would just show multiple features in a row, double features with cartoons and the Three Stooges. And my favorite were science fiction. I love science fiction. You know, the old classic Tarantula and the Deadly Mantis and things like that. I just loved science fiction and stop motion animation. Ray Harryhausen, of course, those Sinbad movies and stuff. It was my escape. And I found, when I was probably about 12 years old, that I kind of had a propensity for doing imitations. And so my friends thought that was cool, and but never thinking that it would turn into a career. But yes, I was definitely one of those kids that would watch cartoons on Saturday morning and turn the channel to try and hit every channel if I could. And, you know, some of my early favorites were like Rocky and Bullwinkle, Bullwinkle the Moose, you know. And then you'd say, come crunch cereal, stays crunchy, even on milk. And I'd run around the house, and my mom would, our Billy's weird, you know, and she didn't understand me.
Now, when did you take this talent and move to LA with it?
Oh, it was much later. I grew up, went to high school in Kansas, went to the University of Kansas, got a degree in journalism, and by doing these impressions, my friends were always putting me up to it. We'd drive through things like Burger King, and I'd say, well, do a weird voice, order in a weird voice. And I'd like a Whopper with cheese, and Arnold the pig would like a Coke, and they'd look out, and that's cool, man. So at band breaks, our fraternity would have, band parties and stuff. They'd say, Farmer, get up and do something. So I decided, well, I better write some material for some of the voices that I did. So I started writing a little routines. Again, never thinking that this would turn into anything. Got my degree in journalism, got into radio, kicked around in radio for a number of years. Also had a minor in electronics, so I was a chief engineer. So I was kind of the techno nerd and the on-air personality as well. I did everything, writing copy and being the engineer and doing a radio show, where I started developing characters. And I did that for a few years, got out of that, wound up finally in Dallas, Texas, where I started stand-up comedy back in 1980. I can tell you the date, March 16th of 1982. That's very specific.
That's less than a month before I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I was born
I'm very old.
April 5th, 1982.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was a big time for me. I went on stage at a place called the Comedy Corner in Dallas, Texas, and I had written about a 5-minute routine to do. And the house comic is now famous, guy named Bill Engvall, who was with the, Blue Collar Comedy.
Yeah.
And Bill said, hey, I think you got something. You ought to give this a shot. So I started coming back week after week. Long story short, I started doing stand-up around Texas, Houston, all the different comedy clubs. And it got bigger and bigger until in 1986, on the advice of an agent that I had in Dallas, they said, well, you do all these voices, you ought to give it a shot in Hollywood. So I came out here in August of 1986, and a few months later, my agent said, do you do any of the Disney characters?
Well, so I was going to say, what was one of your first big gigs or professional gigs, but was it actually Goofy?
Goofy was my first animated character audition. Yes. I'd done some commercials and things like that, but as a major character, that was the first audition.
That's insane. Wow.
I knew Goofy was my favorite Disney character growing up, but I didn't get the gravity of this because it was for like one project. And they don't say, you're now the voice of Goofy forever. So it was for one deal.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping to get it, but you don't want to get your hopes up too much. And all they did was give me a cassette of Pinto Colvig and some of the classic things that he did and say, match this. And I did. I went to the studio and all the world owes me all will one and all the stuff that Pinto had done. Sent it in, and about a month later, they said they'd like to use you as Goofy. Again, there's no contract. It's, this for this one deal. They may never use you again.
That's unbelievable.
I went in, and I did that, and they're still using me.
Wow. Was voiceover a goal for you, or were you more interested in on-camera?
I was used to voiceover from being a radio performer for many years, and stand-up is not unlike comedy was not, unlike a lot of things that we do in voiceover. So it kind of was a great training ground. And I always say that comedy and stand-up was the best training ground I ever had. Because if you can go out there on a Friday night with a bunch of drunks, make me laugh, jerk, okay, if you can survive that, you can survive anything. But it was great training and got me in shape for, I guess, that audition.
Are you still part of the improv troupe out at Fred Willard's group?
I haven't been doing that for about the past year because I've gotten so busy and I've been traveling this year. I just kind of temporarily, I keep in touch with them, but I haven't been doing it regularly with them.
Yeah, my voiceover teacher, Richard Horvitz,
is
part of that group as well. So
of course.
I've gone and seen that. That's a fun night as always. You mentioned Goofy was for a specific project when you first auditioned.
Yes.
So what was that project?
It was called Disney's Doggone Valentine.
I remember that.
Really? It was that DTV. It was a takeoff on MTV where they do mashup of songs, of current songs, and have animation from old cartoons, and I had to replace a piece of animation with a new. It was an old Goofy cartoon, one of those Mr. Wheeler, and where he's like driving and he's looking over the shoulder, and I had to replace dialogue, and I'd never done that before. And I come into the studio first time, and I was like shivering because I didn't know this stuff. And I had to match to the picture. So they play it, and what you do, you hear like 3 beeps. Beep, beep, beep. And then you go, and you're watching the picture, putting new words in the animated character's mouth. And I think I had to say something like, "Gorge, I put my foot on the accelerator, and I'm out of here quick." And that's all I had to say. But that was terrifying for me, and I was so green that I met Tony Anselmo, who's the voice of Donald Duck, and he is an animator. And he was sitting there doodling Donald just beautifully. And I thought to myself, I said, we don't have to draw these guys, do we? They made a horrible mistake.
That's funny.
Luckily, I didn't have to draw.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, that special, if it's the one I'm thinking of, I actually remember it because they did some whole musical montage with the song "Eat It," which is Weird Al's version of "Eat It."
Yeah, exactly.
And that was my introduction to Michael Jackson. Actually,
oh my gosh!
That was the first.
Wow!
Yeah.
And yes, that was my first gig as Goofy.
Wow!
And I remember the second gig. It was also at DTV. About a month later, they called me back. Wanted to reprise the role of Goofy, and I actually did Pluto in that as well. I don't think I did it in the first episode, but the second one I got to do. Got to work with my first celebrity, which was Gary Owens. If you remember from Laugh-In, hello. He had that. Always had his hand up to his ear, and he was hello, Bill. He was very nice. And we had to share a microphone, one of those old RCA 44s, boxy kind of microphones that they used in the 50s and 40s. And we did that old Peacock opening for NBC. And he would do half of it, and I did. And he would go, "The following program is brought to you in living color." And I'd say, "And stereo on NBC." And I was just in heaven. I told my wife, I got to work with Gary Owens. You remember from Laugh-In and all of that? And he was so nice, and it was terrifying, but a lot of fun at the same time.
You want to know a fun little fact? You might know this already about that NBC. Their NBC chime, the ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Do you know what musical notes those are?
No.
GEC, because General Electric Company.
It is.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, I did not know that.
There you go. So you learned something here on Disney Coast to Coast.
The educational show as well as entertaining.
So one of the things that happens a lot with Disney projects is singing. And I wonder, when you first go in for these character voices, is singing part of the audition?
It was with Goofy, as I say, that kind of Goofy's
voice match,
"Whole world owes me a living, lee-loy-lee-lo-lum." I had to do that in my original, so they definitely wanted to know that I could carry a tune. And since then, I've done probably 20 to 30 albums.
Wow.
There was, Disney did a whole bunch of them, especially back in the 90s. Camping songs and singing songs and classical songs and Christmas songs and scary songs. And so I've done, a lot of albums over the years.
At this point, how long have you been Goofy then?
This is my 30th year.
30 years.
Matter of fact, January 23rd will be 31 years.
Wow. And how many Goofies were before you?
I'm the second official one. Pinto Colvig, who originated the voice back in 1932, did the voice till he passed away in the late 60s. And then it was kind of like Goofy du jour. There really wasn't different people would use different. Jack Wagner, who did all of the announcing at Disneyland, would do all of the characters down there. Not really that good. His Goofy just really wasn't that good. And maybe someone else for records and someone else for a TV special. So they used different people. And what happened, luckily, just a coincidence, before I came out here, they started looking to Roy Disney, and Michael Eisner said, well, with the advent of the Disney Channel and on TV, you always hear these voices, let's hear the same actor. So they wanted to settle on one performer for each of the characters.
That's fantastic.
And I just got in that big audition, and they liked mine the best.
Wow. That's incredible. Now, the first time you saw Goofy in the parks after being the voice, do you remember what that was like?
Yeah. I got to preface that by saying before I was doing the voice, I'd only been to Disneyland once.
Okay.
In 1975, I came on a trip to California. First time I was in California. We went to Disneyland, and never known that this would happen. Second time I was doing the voice, and so I saw the walk around, and I went up and I kind of whispered. I said, "Oh, I'm your voice." And in 30 years, I've done that multitude of times to the costume character. They have never broken character and talked back. Yeah. Never once. I mean, they are so well trained. Now, sometimes they'll motion me and we'll go backstage and they'll talk to me then.
Yeah.
Or get a note later or something like that. But they've never broken character, and that just says to the quality of people they get down there to play these roles. I always tell them, you've got the tough job. They have to dance around and do parades and stuff in 100-degree heat. I do it once in a studio, right, in an air-conditioned studio. The worst thing is, my coffee has gotten cold. What is this? I can't work under these conditions. That's about as bad as it gets for me.
Yeah. But what did it feel like for you the first time?
It was, I'll tell you, the first time it really hit me was a couple of years into it. Because when you do a voice, you're in a room with a microphone and people are in the control room and you can't really hear what they're saying unless they turn the talk back on. You just don't get a sense of the people enjoying that.
Yeah.
We did a short, and it was the first time I ever saw myself on the big screen, was one called Prince and the Pauper.
Oh, yes,
it was out in front of the Rescuers Down Under, about 1990, I guess. And
it's on my shelf there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. Right I don't know where mine is. Someone took it. But that was the first time I saw Goofy on screen with an audience. 40 feet tall. That's what really got to me.
Really? Okay.
Oh, that one definitely did. Then I said, yeah, this is real.
Interesting. So it was more seeing yourself on the screen more so than hearing yourself in the parks.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I could enjoy the audience enjoying me.
Yeah.
You get to see their reactions, and that's something really special.
Yeah.
And you don't get that. I did get that in stand-up because you get immediate feedback, and it's great training because you learn what's funny, what works, what doesn't. In a booth, you have to rely so much on the director because, let's say I'm saying in a line, "Gosh, howdy, Mick." Is Mick 2 feet away, 20 feet away, up in a balloon?
Yeah.
Is their house on fire? Are they just sitting around having coffee? You got to really, create the whole scene in your mind.
Yeah. Now, when you do go to the parks these days, does Goofy often recognize you?
Sometimes fans do. Yeah. Now with social media,
well, that's how I got you on the show. Yeah. I basically stalked you at the D23 Expo, so I
well,
apologize.
People do now, and it's a little freaky.
Yeah,
I understand celebrities that are what we call the facies.
Yeah.
They're the face famous people. When you meet them, they're kind of always like a little tight. Okay, what do you want? What do you want? Because you never know, someone, who knows, but stalkers or whatever kind of things. But since my voice is famous, when I change it into Goofy's famous, I'm not. And that's a nice thing. You can turn it on. You
kind of sound like Goofy.
I do, and we've melded into one over the years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I put a lot of me into Goofy.
Yeah. Now, were you a big Disney fan before getting this gig?
I was, but believe it or not, some of the live action things I was more into than the anime. Of course, because a lot of the early ones that I saw at the theater, I mean, they always had reissues. Every 7 years, they'd take them out of the vault, and you'd see, like, Pinocchio scared me as a kid. Because, I don't want to go to Pleasure Island. I'll turn into a donkey.
Yeah, right.
Stuff like that. Snow White, bring me your heart in a box. That was pretty heavy stuff when I was a kid. But I've always been a fan of their animation. But I didn't get exposed to that too often. With Wonderful World of Color on Sunday night was about the only outlet for that kind of thing. But Goofy was my favorite as a kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that is really a topper for me, to get to do my favorite Disney character.
That's awesome. Now, I am curious. They use the term, or maybe this is a fan thing. I don't know if this is an official Disney thing, the Fab Five of the Disney characters.
They just kind of, called that. It's, Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Donald, and Pluto.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, who do you consider to be the Fab Five?
That, for most of my career, they call them the Sensational Six. They've kind of included Daisy into that with Donald.
See, I'll see a Fab Five out a lot without Pluto, with Daisy in his place. I'm like, that's not the Fab Five.
Right.
It's very frustrating.
And I've done Pluto as long as I've done Goofy, and he doesn't get the PR that Goofy does.
Well, let's hear a little Pluto.
It's actually a lot rougher on your throat to do that.
Really?
I always save Pluto for last, because if I do too much of that, I can strip gears a little bit. And emoting as Pluto, okay, now he's got to be a quizzical, like, something like that. Little sounds are much more difficult to get than having dialogue.
Nice. Now, in the voiceover world, there's a lot of working alone, being in a booth alone. Yeah. How often do the Fab Five get together? I guess it would really be a Fab Four, since you're two of the five.
Never anymore. It is in the old days when we recorded in studios to tape, usually a 24-track recorder that had this big 2-inch wide tape on it. You had to be, it was like a radio play. We would all be in the studio with microphones, but we all had to have a good take for us to go on. With nonlinear editing and Pro Tools and all the stuff, you can. It's much easier on everybody's schedule, because I can be there at Tuesday at 2:00, and Wayne can be there on Wednesday at 3. Well, if I do my lines, I can do, if I say, let's go for a shake, Gosh, Mickey, let's go for a shake. Come on, Mickey, let's go for a shake. Come on, Mick, let's go for a shake. And they say, oh, we love the take 3. They'll take that take 3, and if Mickey says, okay, 3 different times, they'll pick maybe take 2. They take his take 2, my take 3, marry them together in editing, and you get the best of both worlds. It's better for the show. It's rougher on the actors because you don't have someone to bounce lines off.
Yeah. I had a geek out moment right there when you just did 3 takes of a Goofy line. I was just like, am I seriously sitting here with Goofy? Sorry, that was a super nerdy moment. Now, wow. A big project that came along for you, Goof Troop.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that come about? Was that something where Disney was like, we want Goofy to be more known? Or was it something like, hey, we're noticing Goofy is really popular, let's give him his own thing?
There was much more with the Disney Afternoon. Had started like with Gummy Bears and all of those series back, and Darkwing Duck and all of these. Why they picked Goofy? Probably because Mickey, they kind of protected as a corporate icon, you know? And Wayne always complained that they made him too bland because they were very careful with what they did with Mickey. Donald, it's tough to understand him. And Goofy's kind of an everyman. He's funny. He can kind of fit into most situations. And Jim Megan, who wrote a lot of, kind of came up with the concept, I believe, for Goof Troop, wrote a lot of the scripts and a Goofy movie, for example. We were at a dinner, and he said, hey, I think we might have a series coming up for you. And that's all okay, what? Well, you'll find out. You really don't find out until we need you to come in next Tuesday, and we're doing a new series.
Now, at this point, were you like, is there a contract out there that basically says it's a Goofy project, it's yours?
No.
Still.
All voice actors are basically, we're like the plumber. We're independent contractors. So I have a new contract every time I go into the studio. Still that way. I'm not an employee of Disney. Never have been, but that allows me to work for Warner Brothers and all the other studios as well. Yeah. So we're like the plumber. We got a job, come on in. You come in and do it, and you go home, and then hopefully they call you again.
So how much fun was that Goof Troop experience?
Oh, I loved doing that. That was also terrifying because we had one of the best casts that I've ever worked with. We had Frank Welker, we had Jim Cummings, Rob Paulson, April Winchell, Nancy Cartwright, Dana Hill, who did Max, Jenny McSwain directed. I mean, it was a big, powerful top of the line cast,
Yes.
and I'm the title character. It really, it was a little scary to kind of, I felt a lot of responsibility to help carry the show. But they were all great to work with, and I learned so much sitting next to them and about voiceover. And it was a great experience. But it was like, sink or swim. They throw you in there, and you hope you do okay.
Yeah, and the Goof Troop success, I would assume, led to a Goofy movie.
It originally was supposed to be a Goof Troop movie.
Okay.
Because there was a DuckTales movie after
yes.
the series DuckTales. They wanted a Goof Troop movie, but Jeffrey Katzenberg, after seeing the script, and we actually did a couple of recordings with the entire Goof Troop cast, he wanted to change it into a buddy-buddy picture. Maybe because of his son or whatever, I'm not sure exactly why, but that's how it kind of, okay, we are going to rewrite it. And it's going to be more of a buddy-buddy picture with Goofy and his son Max. Dana Hill, who did the voice of Max in Goof Troop, had passed away. And they needed an older Max who was, I think in Goof Troop, Max was around 10 to 13. Now he's around 17 or 18. He's in high school. And so they used Jason Marsden, who just did a wonderful job and is so great. He's almost like my real son anymore.
Disney fans, also Jason Marsden is the voice of Binks in Hocus Pocus.
Yes, absolutely. And he's a great actor and a lot of fun to work with. And so then it became a Goofy movie, this buddy-buddy picture. And whereas when we would do a Goof Troop episode, we had like 3 hours to do 40-some pages of dialogue. We didn't even get a rehearsal. We would get our scripts, go in, we would all be in the same room, and just boom, go. And we did it in a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours. A Goofy movie, they had much more of a budget, and they rewrote scenes and deleted scenes and added. So it was about a 2.5-year process of going back into the studio, recording scenes, and kind of tweaking it. And that's what happens when you have some nice money behind you. You can do that kind of thing. And it came out, and I don't think they thought it would be the hit that it was, but it became a #1 VHS. It was #2, I think, at the box office, and it was this little movie that could. And just this year, they had a week showing of a Goofy movie at the El Capitan Theater.
I went.
And I wanted to go.
You were in Orlando.
I was in Orlando.
Yeah.
They didn't ask me if I'd be available that week to come down, and I was so mad that I couldn't be there. So I recorded a little video introduction in my home, and as I understand it, people were like, singing along, and it was kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something.
It has a cult following, I would say,
does.
at this point. If you're of a certain age, which is basically right around my age, and grew up with that film, like you love Powerline. Like, I'm telling you, I've said a billion times, if Disney wanted to do something amazing in their parks, have a Powerline concert. Like,
Absolutely.
People would freak out.
Well, we did in a way. At D23
a
couple of years ago, we had a Goofy movie panel. And there was a Disney blog that had like the top 10 panels to go see at D23. We weren't even listed. And yet after it was all over, the room was packed. We got a 2.5-minute standing ovation at the end of it. We got the highest score, 100% of everyone that we beat out the Star Wars panel, and they had Harrison Ford and George Lucas. So I was very pleased with the reception, and it just blew me away. It was also the first time I ever got to meet Tevin Campbell, who did Powerline.
Yeah, wow. That must have been kind of emotional, like having that reunion of
It
folks
really
there.
was. Don Hahn, who of course produced.
He's been on the show.
He did a little mashup of Eye to Eye. He edited that himself, and it was wonderful. And we got to sing the songs. Because in the movie, when I sing The Open Road and Nobody Else But You, I sang with Aaron Lohr, a young singer. They didn't have Jason sing. I guess they didn't know he sang, but they got a professional singer who's actually one of Jason's friends. And we rectified that, so we had Jason sing live The Open Road to a picture of the movie rolling behind us. It was a very special treat.
So a Goofy movie ended up leading to an extremely Goofy movie.
Yes.
because
Yes.
it was so successful.
Right. And a lot of people come up to me today, and, that was a different experience because it was done much quicker. We didn't have songs, which I really would have liked to have had. I thought it really added to the first movie.
Yeah.
Bebe Neuwirth played Sylvia, Goofy's girlfriend in the movie. And it's so funny, people say, what was it like to work with her? I've never met her. I've never even talked with her on the phone. She was in New York doing Broadway. I was in L.A., and she recorded her lines there. I recorded my lines here, and you can put together a movie and never get to meet the cast.
It's voiceover is so weird that
It
way.
really is.
You meet them on the red carpet at the premiere. It really
That's
is.
about it, yeah. Or see them in the lobby as you come in. Hi, Rob, how you doing? Hey, what's going on, Bill?
I was actually moderating a panel just this past Friday night, and it was a Disney XD TV show.
Right.
And so I'm in the green room waiting for the actors to show up. And like they come in the room and literally started introducing themselves to each other. I'm like, you've never met? And they're like in their third season or something.
Right. That's very, very common in voice acting.
Unbelievable. Now, what do you think? Those are obviously hugely successful
Yes.
projects for Goofy. Is there a project that you thought was really strange for Goofy that you were a part of?
We probably one of the record albums that we did. That's how old I am. Record albums, a CD. We did one, Mickey Unwrapped, where we did.
All righty.
So we did rap songs. It just was really strange. But we did. I mean, Pluto had a song with Whoopi Goldberg. They had tag team like Whoop, there it is, and we were singing this kind of stuff with these guys on the album. And that was a very strange outing, but it was a lot of fun. We've.
That's funny.
That was a strange one.
Is there a Goofy project that you're most proud of? The one that you like, wow,
gosh.
that got it right, you know?
A Goofy movie probably is overall one of my favorites, but everyone has, so much memory. As I say, I'm a Halloween nut.
Okay.
So in the Mickey shorts, there was one called Ghoul Friend where Goofy was a zombie. I don't do much talking in it, but I was so excited when they said, I'm going to be a zombie. Oh, cool, And we just had, this month, the Mickey, the scariest story ever, the Mickey Mouse shorts. It's a half-hour special on television, which was a lot of fun. And I got to do Dr. Frankenstein or Goofenstein, and which to me was an awful lot of fun to do. It's to kind of take the character in new directions is always a lot of fun.
That's cool. Now, you mentioned you kind of get the call semi-last minute when you're needed. What's the phone call? Is it like, hey, we got a video game. Hey, we got a theme park thing. Hey, we got a movie.
Right.
TV. That's
For example, tomorrow I'm doing a toy.
okay.
I don't know anything more about it. My agent called. Oh, they want to book you. Are you available at 10 o'clock Monday morning to do a toy? Yeah. So I'll go to the studio and find out what it is there. And they might have a picture of the toy and what Goofy says. And I just kind of do it.
That's so funny. Now, do you usually record Goofy at the same place, or is it kind of all over town?
Disney quite often uses the same studios. There's several that we use throughout the valley. We have several series on now, Mickey and the Roadster Racers, which we recorded one place on Magnolia, actually, and another one over near the Disney studios where we do a lot of like the Christmas shows that I'll do the toy tomorrow. There's a big studio, LA Studios, which is on Cahuenga, and we've done a lot of series there. I did a series called the 7D where we recorded there, and we recorded a lot of stuff there over the years.
Now, obviously, you do tons of voiceover work aside from Goofy, but does Goofy get enough work that it could be a full-time job?
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. Goofy is by far the most used character that I've ever done, and I've done a lot of Mel Blanc's voices in
You're in Space Jam, aren't you?
Space Jam,
Yeah.
Sylvester and Yosemite and Foghorn, and over the years I've actually done Bugs and Daffy and Robot Chicken, and so I've got to do some of those classic characters.
They're a bit different. Don't they audition for each individual project? They don't have one
they
voice?
do not seem to have one particular actor that you are Daffy.
Other
you
than Bob
are Bugs.
Bergen. Although
yeah,
he
Bob,
auditions, I think, for each one, too.
he might. I know he's been Porky forever, but he's done Tweety and he's done Marvin and some other ones over the years as well. But they don't seem to be the sticklers that Disney is for preserving that one actor, one character continuity.
That's a huge mistake.
I think so, because I grew up more with the Warner Brothers characters. I saw them much more on television than I did the Disney stuff.
Yeah.
And when I came out here, I got to meet Mel Blanc once,
Wow.
which was he's like a god in the voiceover community.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thrill.
How does the voiceover process differ depending on the project? Whether it's TV or theme park, is one like a lot faster, or does your day differ much?
It depends. Video games generally tend to run the longest because there are the most lines, because whatever the player does, you got to cover that. So a video game can have 3,000 or 4,000 lines, whereas a typical television series might have 20 to 30, depending on the character. Sometimes as much as 80. Sometimes as little as I'll come in and, gorge, thanks, I'm going home,
And that's a full day's pay, ladies and gentlemen.
They pay by the job, not by the hours.
That's fantastic. I love it. And now you have the honor of not only being a Disney legend, but being the first Disney legend on Disney Coast to Coast.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So how did you hear you were going to become a Disney legend?
I just got a letter in the mail from Bob Iger saying, you have been selected, you're one of this year's Disney legends.
Wow.
And it was like, wow. The year before, Wayne Allwine and Russi Taylor had Mickey and Minnie got their Legend Award. So I was hoping, but you never know on that kind of thing. And it was a tremendous honor and very exciting. They had the ceremony. It was the first one in front of the public.
I was there.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
In 2009.
Yep.
Tom Bergeron hosted. I got my award along with Robin Williams and Betty White and the Golden Girls and Tony Anselmo, who does Donald. And that was just, that was surreal, seeing like 4,000 people in the audience and you getting up. I remember bits of it, but it's so surreal that it's just a mind-blowing experience. And I'm on the stage with Robin Williams, and oh my gosh, it was a big honor. It was a big, big honor.
Now, you get a very nice statue.
I do.
Where is it?
That's on my mantle at home,
Okay.
and I've got an Annie Award from
nice.
One of the Mickey shorts, Goofy's Grandma, where I do Goofy and Goofy's Grandma, and an Emmy nomination and some other lesser awards, and one's an International Family Film Festival. I was a Life Achievement Award winner, the Friz Freleng Award, and I'm the only voice actor so far to have gotten that. And
wow.
I'm very honored that they chose to honor me with that. It's usually like Andreas Deja, one of the Disney artists and directors, and Roy Disney got one, and all that kind of stuff. So it's good company to be with.
Huh. How much Goofy stuff do you have at home?
Too much.
Is it all over the home, or is it like the wife says you got this room? Have fun.
No, it's pretty much kind of scattered throughout the house.
Yeah.
It kind of tends to be in the hallways. We have an upstairs, and so going up the hallways are like posters of the movies and things that I've done, and a lot of plush toys and little mementos. But I'm not an avid collector, but I certainly get given a lot of stuff.
I was going to say it's.
I don't have the room.
Yeah, I'm that way with Mickey Mouse. I have a lot of Mickey Mouse stuff, as you can see behind me.
Yes.
But most of it I did not get myself. Like,
I know,
a lot of
people
it's
give it
gifts,
to you.
which is lovely and appreciated. But it's kind of funny because people are like, "Wow, you have a collection problem." I'm like, "No, I don't."
No, I've seen collection problems.
Yeah.
In Chicago once, I was doing an art gallery signing, and they said, "There's this guy. He's like the biggest Goofy fan. I want to surprise him and take you over to his house." It's really weird to go into someone else's house and your picture is on their wall. He had Goofy
like
carpets.
You or Goofy?
Yeah, me.
You.
I met him
Okay.
years before at a convention, and he had like Goofy carpets and pillows and things I'd never seen. I don't know where he got this stuff. Probably, he said, well over 2,000 or 3,000 items.
Wow, that's crazy.
A Goofy house.
Now, you mentioned Mickey and the Roadster Racers.
Yes.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse was not that long ago.
Right.
What are some of the more recent projects you can talk about that you're working on?
Sure.
I guess a toy. That's
Absolutely. I got a toy tomorrow. I don't know what it is. But I'm always doing something. Since Goof Troop, I've been on air about every day with something. there was Goof Troop, there was Mickey Mouse Works, there was House of Mouse. Then we had Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which premiered in, I think, 2006 and is still running strong on television. So that's 11 years.
Yeah.
Then Mickey and the Roadster Racers, the Mickey Shorts. We're in our 5th season of that. We're still making those. I'm in... not as Goofy, but I'm another character in an upcoming one I can't even talk about yet. It'll be an interesting one on the Disney Afternoon. The 7D, which was a reinvention of the Seven Dwarves. I was Doc, and that was a fun one because I got to come up with the voice. It wasn't based on it. They didn't want the traditional dwarves, of which I'm Sleepy whenever they need the traditional dwarves. I'm
cool.
Sleepy. And I'm Doc in this one. And so
I got to come up with Doc's regular voice and create it on my own. So
that's awesome. Now all the Disney park fans know there's a big project happening down at Walt Disney World at Disney's Hollywood Studios called A Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway,
yes.
of which I believe Goofy's a big part of.
Yes.
Have you recorded anything for that?
I have recorded for it about a month or two ago. And it's replacing the Great Movie Ride.
Oh, rest in peace.
Which, yes,
God, that was a heartbreak.
You like that? You love
it. Here's the thing. Disney's Hollywood Studios is like my park. It was the first park that was built in my lifetime. And I was a kid living in Massachusetts wanting to be in showbiz. So like going to Disney MGM Studios at the time, like that was my park.
Well,
and the Great Movie Ride was the anchor.
In The Wizard of Oz, I was the Cowardly Lion in that particular part of that ride. So I get to continue.
You worked with Liza Minnelli. Liza Minnelli.
No, I didn't get to meet her.
But you worked with her.
I worked with her. I worked with a lot of people, but I never get a chance to meet them.
That's awesome. So Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, can you say anything about it? Have you obviously you can't tell us, but have you seen any of we keep getting this whole what are they calling it? 2.5D thing. Have you seen this concept?
It's something.
Stuff?
It's an immersive thing, but I haven't seen anything. I just had my lines, and it'll be interesting to see what they do come up with. So that's one thing. People think I know this much. I know the lines, that I did.
Yeah.
But I don't get more of an insight into. Like when it's going to be done, what's in it, and all of that than anyone else.
Yeah.
Same thing with people always ask me about Kingdom Hearts and video games and stuff. I don't know. They don't. Bob Iger doesn't call me up and say, "Bill, we're going to release Kingdom Hearts and whenever." So people always ask me that.
That's your Bob Iger voice.
That's my Bob Iger voice. Very serious.
Very nice. Now, is there a Goofy project that you would like to see done that hasn't been?
Oh yeah, I would love to see a sequel to a Goofy movie. I think from the response that people had at the El Capitan
so
Theater.
So it would be the third, right?
The third, yes.
Yeah.
It's time for a Goofy to come back, maybe as a grandfather, who knows?
Oh, yeah.
That would be a logical extension.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Now I'm going to read through some titles of Disney projects that people may not know that you were a voice on, and let us know briefly, what you did. Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I do a lot of ADR. In other words, that's called additional dialogue recording, where after the movie's done, or mostly done, you go in and you add incidental characters. Like the guy on the left is speaking, but we don't hear anything. Add something, like, hey, what are you going to do for lunch or whatever. So the crowd scene that is the crowd that is attacking the castle, a lot of that's me. I did some little incidentals. Probably the most obscure thing I've ever done was in Beauty and the Beast, where Gaston is singing in the bar about decorating with antlers and all this stuff. He throws 3 eggs up in the air, and he swallows them. Like that's me. I'm Eggs. So you never know what you get to do.
I'm Eggs. I love it. Toy Story series.
Oh, Toy Story. Again, incidental characters. Probably the most standout is like in the Pizza Planet. I was Mission Control. Demon is 29, 28, getting ready for lunch. That kind of an announcer voice.
That's awesome. Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Again, crowds attacking the castle. No specific ones, and sometimes I never know even when I see the movie, because they'll have several of the actors will be in the room at the same time, and they might have 3 of us do, you be this guy. One guy might go,
hey, come on, let's go. Hey, come on, let's go.
What's going on? And we don't know until we see the movie which one of us got it.
Yeah.
And I did, what else you got?
Hercules.
Hercules. Again, just crowd scenes that nothing stands out in my mind from that I can remember right offhand.
Bug's Life.
Bug's Life. I did some incidental ants.
Nice.
And I think I was a snail saying something in the Bug City, saying, "Hey, watch it." Kind of a New York kind of guy.
Brother Bear.
Brother Bear. Some wolves. I know I did some wolves in that. And again, incidental characters. You're mostly immersed with everybody else, so it's a lot of crowd scenes. So there might be 10 of us in the studio at the same time, adding voices.
Home on the Range.
Home on the Range.
I think I may have done a Pat Buttram voice in that.
Nice.
And several other minor characters.
Cars.
Cars, let me see, what did I do?
The list is unbelievable.
Yeah, I've done, Cars was interesting. Again, it's a lot of crowd scenes and a lot of these things. Very few of them have standout roles that, you can point, yes, that's me.
Yeah.
It's usually in big crowd scenes. Cars was interesting because when we recorded that, and the ADR group is kind of not an afterthought, but it's usually a B director or an associate director that will do those sessions. Quite often it's not the main director. But John Lasseter came in and he spent like 3 hours with us telling us how he came up with the whole idea and taking a travel through the American West. And I mean, he was so involved with that movie. I was impressed that he'd do that.
Huh. Meet the Robinsons.
I don't remember.
I don't even remember the recording session of that one.
That's true. It all kind of blends.
I'm sure it does.
Some of them stick out. Others, it's just like a day at the office.
Monsters University.
Monsters University and the fraternity. We were some of the guys cheering them on when they're going through and getting doing the hazing, and guys on campus, I remember. Just little incidental things in the background.
And then Jake and the Neverland Pirates, you did some stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did with Carl Reiner. I did a ghost. And, what voice? I think maybe it was more of an Ed Wynn kind of thing, I think.
Like it.
But I'll have to remember to see that one, to see it again. A lot of times I don't. When I did a movie, Shrek 2, and I did an announcer in one that they used, and I was with my son in the theater, and I say something like, "Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Princess Fiona and Prince Shrek," and my son goes, "Dad, that was you," and I go, I guess it was. I totally forgot.
That's awesome. Now, we were talking earlier about how Disney is very protective of the character as far as having one voice perform it, and not to get too morbid here, but is there a Goofy in training that you work with?
I hope not.
Okay.
I'm planning on staying around a while, but no, they would have an audition if the need happened.
Because I know Donald is like, isn't that Tony was trained from the previous Donald,
Clarence
right?
Nash.
Okay.
Yes.
That voice, I don't know how anybody creates that voice.
That's so tough. I watch him, and he's, I think, had 2 hernias probably doing the voice over the years. That's all I can do.
Oh, I can't do it even that well. Like that's pretty good. Now, if you could, you did mention Goofy was your favorite, but if any character, not even just Disney, if you could have taken over the voice.
Oh yeah, well,
who'd it be?
I would love to do some of the Warner Brothers characters on a more regular basis. I've done Bugs Bunny on an episode of Robot Chicken.
Oh, brother, ain't I a stinker?
And I grew up with Bugs, so he was one of my favorites. And Foghorn, I say there, boy. I'd love to do that on a more regular basis, too, because I love those characters.
Yeah. Now, I have to ask for a favor to make a dream come true, and you can seriously feel free to say no.
Okay.
It is no secret on this show that a dream of mine is to be the voice of Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
And considering you guys keep these jobs for decades, it's probably not going to happen. But I have a little script here.
Oh, okay.
Can I read as Mickey and you as Goofy?
Sure.
Okay,
yeah,
let's. You'll recognize this, I'm sure. It's pretty classic.
I hope I got my...
Your glasses?
Yeah, do I have glasses?
Let's see.
Yes, I do. Otherwise, this is going nowhere.
Okay, here we go. Let's try this. In 3, 2.
Strange as it may seem, they give ball players nowadays very peculiar names.
Funny names?
Nicknames. Now, on the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellows on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You know the fellow's name?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you, who's on first?
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Gorge.
Boom.
One take.
Dude,
very good. Very
Dream come
good.
true.
Very good.
Dream come true right there. Thank you for doing that.
Oh,
that was
my
amazing.
pleasure.
I do have some things if you don't mind signing them. We love to do giveaways on this show. So
Sure.
folks, if you want to win an autographed picture of Goofy by Bill Farmer, make sure you go to DisneyCoastToCoast.com. We'll have them do one at least one of these
All
on
right.
the air so that
Sure.
it's proof that this is
That's real.
for real. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up here?
Well, this has just been so much fun. I mean, to go down memory lane and everything, and it was an incredibly good intervieu.
Thank you.
You never know. Sometimes, and I've done thousands of interviews over the years and stuff, and some people will, like radio interviews, they will just look on their cheat sheet and say, "Yes, Bill, when did you start doing Goofy?" And they don't play. They don't, get into it. But you do, and that was so much fun.
Thank you so much. Hope you all enjoyed that interview with Mr. Bill Farmer. Thanks again to Bill for coming on the show. Now, folks, I do want to remind you that this is your last chance to order a DCTC 2018 calendar over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. The last day is this upcoming Monday, December 11th. We've got to send those off to the presses to get printed for you and ship them out mid-December so that they'll get to you before Christmas. It would make a great holiday gift for any Disney fan in your life. For those of you who have been asking if I would sign the calendar, I'd be more than happy to do so. All you got to do is leave a comment when you place the order over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com and let me know that you want it signed. If you've already placed an order and you want yours signed, just go to DisneyCoastToCoast.com, click on the contact page, and let me know there. Not a problem whatsoever, but this Monday, December 11th, is your absolute last chance to place the order before it gets sent to the press. So guys, go and do that as soon as this episode ends. But of course, it can't end yet because we haven't had any trivia, so here we go. It's trivia time! On today's trivia time, I have Maxwell Glick, who you may know as Mr. Cheesy Pop on YouTube, where multiple days a week he creates Disney-inspired videos. Your home base is Disneyland, of course, but whenever you travel, you bring the camera along with you, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Always.
And I do have to ask, where did the name Mr. Cheesy Pop come from?
I actually did a video about this not too long ago. It actually has its roots in cheesy pop music.
I like that.
I love just cheesy pop music. And when back in the old days when there was this thing called AOL, that was my screen name because I was just like, this is what I like. I like pop music, and so it just kind of stuck. So when it was time to open up my YouTube. I didn't know, my username, Mr. Cheesy Pop. That's like my username on things.
You can always tell when people have a username that they created, like when they were 12 years old.
Yeah, and it just like, the thing was, I was like, should I change it? But then what started to happen also is that like people it just was a name that people liked.
Yeah.
And it was catchy, and people would like come up to me and be like, "Mr. Cheesy Pop." So I was like, "Okay, it's working."
So if you were into cheesy pop music, were you a boy band fan, or are you a boy band fan?
Yes, exactly. So
excellent.
NSYNC, Backstreet.
Okay, NSYNC's the first one you mentioned, so you're good in my book. There we go. Nice. Okay, come on. They're the most important one. I like Backstreet Boys, but NSYNC. Yes. Let's face it, reunion tour, we'd spend thousands of dollars to get those front row seats.
Oh my gosh, if they ever. Unfortunately, they never will.
I ran into I ran into Joey Fatone recently, and I was like, dude, you took so much of my money when I was a child. Like, I would literally do a paper out and save up to go see NSYNC. And he was like, well, thanks, you put my kid through college. I'm like, yeah, and frankly, you can have it again if you guys have a reunion tour. So I would kill.
I feel that I did see the Backstreet Boys in Vegas.
I want to go see them.
And they were amazing, actually. So it was really cool.
You know who, actually, this is such a random tangent here, but I went and saw New Kids on the Block pretty recently, and they were really good. Like, they're vocally in shape, physically in shape. Like, they're great. And, of course, growing up, I'm sure you know, you were either an NSYNC fan or a Backstreet Boys fan. Yeah. And I was hardcore NSYNC, so I could never go see a Backstreet Boys because that would just be wrong. But these days in Vegas, I do want to catch the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, it's worth it. They're super fun. It's great. Yeah.
That's fun. Excellent. Anyway, well, just to tie this back to Disney, just remember, folks, NSYNC did have a concert in front of the Chinese Theater at Disney's Hollywood Studios, which you could see on the Disney Channel. But remember that day? Those were good days. Anyway, let's segue back to some trivia here. Today's trivia segment is all about Disney's Candlelight Processional, which has become quite a tradition at the Disney parks. So why don't you hit me with a question first?
Okay. So the Candlelight Processional has a narrator, but it didn't always. So what was the first year of the narrator?
I want to say it was like 1958. Is that correct or accurate or close?
It's very close.
Is it 57? 9. So I wasn't that close. 1961.
Yes.
1961. Okay. Who was the first? Was it a celebrity, I assume?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't even know.
Okay. And so obviously this would have been at Disneyland. It did start pretty early on, the Candlelight Processional. Like, it was not the first year, but I think 56 was the first one.
Yeah, I think it was 56.
Much smaller, and it kind of just organically became what it is today.
I think it was just more like a chorus, just a little. And then I think that 58 thing you had in your head there too is I think the first year it became
an official thing.
The thing, like a processional, like.
Gotcha.
Like it was,
It's so interesting. Obviously, it's a huge thing at Walt Disney World, but it's interesting at Disneyland because, like, it tends to be a weekend. So, like, 2 or 3 nights they'll do it. And then they tried a few years back to make it a month-long thing like they do at Epcot. And I don't think it did as well here because they reverted back to just, like, a weekend of it. So it's interesting. Either that or the crowds were just too insane to deal with. That might have been it.
The crowds are way... have you gone in recent years at all?
I was last year. I happened to be there on a candlelight night, and I actually think it's like really, really beautiful.
It is.
It's really beautiful, and like aside from like the religion of it, because I know that there's a lot of people off. It's just really beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It really is. I mean, it's something you should see for sure. Once in your life, at least. It's at Disneyland. It's really hard now because like. People wait in line because they only do it like 2 nights,
2 or 3 nights. Yeah, I had a
line all day.
Yeah, I had a cool extra magic experience with that because I was there with a friend and I was just kind of asking cast members a question. This was probably like 5 or 6 hours before the performance, and they're just like, hey, like we want to see it, but we don't want to wait insane amounts of time. Where's like the best place to go for this? And the woman just said, hold on 1 second. She goes, stay right here. And she came back 5 minutes later with 2 tickets for us.
Whoa.
And I was like, wow, that was like some extra magic right there.
Impressive.
So that was the Jane Seymour year that I got to do it at Disneyland.
Cool.
But, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to hop to the other coast for, considering this is a coast-to-coast show, let's hop to the other coast for your trivia question. I want to know, so it has been at Walt Disney World since the beginning in 1971, but I want to know, do you know when it actually moved to Epcot?
Ooh, well, I guess, let's see. 1986.
No, bit higher than that.
Okay. The 90s?
Yeah.
Okay. 96.
A little lower.
92.
little higher.
94.
94. It was during the famous Epcot 94 year, 1994. It took that long to get to Epcot. I actually didn't know that it was never. I guess it makes sense if it was there since the opening. Obviously, it wasn't at Epcot.
Yeah, I know.
But it took a while to get over there. And from what I hear, like I have friends that will go to as many performances of that as possible. They obviously have tons of different celebrities doing the reading there. So
that's the thing to do. It's awesome.
It's really frustrating because like right now, or the way in advance you can book your dining package and everything for Candlelight Processional, and I check on the Disneyland site just a couple months in advance, and there's still nothing about it. So like it always seems to be kind of a secret at Disneyland, whereas at Walt Disney World it's very well promoted.
Yeah, they don't talk about it at all.
Yeah,
here I think they do it on purpose to keep the crowds away.
Maybe. Quite possibly.
Because they only do it, 2 nights, but, over in Disney World, gosh,
yeah,
it's so impressive, though. It's really cool.
Yeah, I got to check it out one of these times. But Maxwell,
a long time ago,
yeah, Maxwell, thanks so much for coming on the show. As I mentioned at the beginning, you can catch him on YouTube as Mr. Cheesy Pop. I will have a link below in our description on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, anytime.
Thanks for spending another week with us here at Disney Coast to Coast. Folks, between episodes, you can connect with us on social media in places like Twitter and Instagram, where our username is DisneyCTC. That's DIZNEYCTC. For that and any of our other social media, just go to DisneyCoastToCoast.com. You can find the links there. But for now, that's going to do it. Guys, the episode's over, so go order yourself a calendar before it's too late. Okay? I'll see you next time. Have a magical week, everybody. Bye!
Thanks for watching Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.